Hey guys, it's Eek the Geek, and the Pokemon International Challenge for April is just finished, and I felt like doing a review and analysis about things that I saw and noticed, and just useful information about the team I used, teams I saw, and what went well, what didn't. Just useful information for anyone who wants to get better at competitive or just is curious about what went down in the International Challenge for April. So, first of all, let's just talk about how I did. Obviously, you don't want to hear a review from someone who didn't even get past the 1600s or just didn't do good at all. So I ended with a 1730-ish rating. I'm hoping that gets me in the top 25-ish. I think that might get me up there. I'm not quite sure how other people did though, but I'm quite content with that rating. My goal was to go 25 wins and 5 losses, but I went 24 wins and 6 losses, but that's still very good. Getting that close to my goal, I'm really content with how I finished, and I'm quite happy about that. Now, the first 2 days were very rough. The first day wasn't too bad, 6 wins, 2 losses. I was okay with that, although I would have preferred to have gone 7-1, but 6-2 was still okay, especially because it was my first day, so it was kind of expected. I haven't done too much competitive other than just Battle Spot and Showdown because I just haven't been to any tournaments and stuff, so I was content with day 1, but then day 2, I guess I just wasn't focusing. I was very busy, and I really just shouldn't have done any battles that day because I had 3 wins and 3 losses, which was not good. That really just hurt my record a lot, but other than that, after that, I just went up. I started focusing, and I was clear-minded, and I was starting to play really well, because day 3 obviously just went 5 wins, 0 losses, went well, didn't play too much because I was very busy, but then day 4, I had all day, that was actually today, and I went 10 wins in a row, so at this point I've already got 15 wins in a row, but my final match was a loss, putting me at 24-6 rather than 25-5, but overall, I'm very content with my finish, and yes, it's a picture of Mega Venusaur because I did use a Mega Venusaur team that worked very well. So obviously the team, it's a team that you might have seen before if you've seen my live VGC videos. If you haven't, definitely go check them out after you finish watching this one because this team is definitely putting in work, still making some changes and seeing what they do, but I'm definitely liking it. As you can see, it's Mega Venusaur, Rotom Wash, Terrakion, Heatran, Clefable, Latios. The goal is that they've got good synergy, they all cover each other's weaknesses very well, and they work very well. You got enough offense in Terrakion, Heatran, and Latios, who are very offensive, but can also take any neutral or not very effective hit extremely well, while Mega Venusaur and Rotom are super bulky, and then Clefable is an amazing support Pokemon. So overall, I really like this team, and it worked very well for me. So we're going to start with day 1 here, the first day, and I had no clue what was going to happen, and I'm quite content with that happened because my 2 losses were actually my first few matches, so that was quite good, being able to lose my first game, win my second, and then lose my third game, but then still able to keep my cool and continue winning for the rest of the day. Now, my first and third game were against Magnum Creeper and Jose. Jose was from Mexico, so only Mexican player that I ever played, but they were both losses, and they were both 1500 ratings, so I don't know what they ended up with, but Magnum Creeper was my first match, and he used a Trick Room team, and I could have easily beat him, and it sucks that I lost because I led with Rotom Wash and Venusaur, and then he had his Jellicent. Now, I know that Thunderbolt from Rotom Wash and a Giga Drain from Mega Venusaur can KO a Jellicent, but they both got low rolls, and Rotom Wash's Thunderbolt did about 49%, and then Mega Venusaur did about 50%, and those are both low rolls. It really sucks. I was not able to take out his Jellicent. Maybe if I led with Latios, because I feel like Draco Meteor might have done more. I'm not quite sure, but it's a shame I wasn't able to take out his Jellicent. Now, my second match is down there, so I'll go over that one before I go over my third one. I was against someone named Patrick, and I won 3-0, nothing special. Obviously, he might not have been that great, but he did have a very interesting team, and I forgot to take out my notes before I started recording this, so sorry, I meant to do this earlier. So his team was Heliolisk, Gliscor, Mega Lopunny, Jellicent, Goodra, and Talonflame. Now instantly I saw that Mega Venusaur can do quite well against this team as long as I get rid of that Talonflame. So that was my goal, and I did that very easily. Talonflame went down very easily, and then at that point I had Clefable to deal with Mega Lopunny and Gliscor because Clefable does have Ice Beam. So, and Mega Venusaur also just couldn't get touched by my Rotom Wash, just doing some solid damage, and I believe I had Terrakion, and that's how I was able to take out his Talonflame. But that's the point of this team. See the threats and who can just finish up the game, and I saw Talonflame as the threat, and then Mega Venusaur and Clefable were able to finish up the game. But game 3 I ended up losing versus Jose, and he also had a Mega Venusaur, but he didn't, I say never because I fought him twice. We'll go over the second time I went against him later, and he had his Mega Venusaur, but he didn't bring it, and he won 3-0, just flat out beat me hard. I completely was mispredicting. I was going right into his protects, letting him just hit me with these moves that I shouldn't have let him hit me with, and it was not a good time. It was just bad playing by me. Nothing I could have done about that other than play well. Now, game 6 was against someone named Hurricane, and I just felt like mentioning this because he used a Clef Key, the only Clef Key I went against, and I almost lost to T-Wave Swagger Spam. I had Heatran, but I put it in the back, and I didn't want to just switch it in because it would get T-Wave Swaggered, and then just like everything else, just para-flinching non-stop. I believe he also had Lando T, so he was also going for the Rock Slide, and it was such a pain, but I was able to beat him because honestly he was literally just relying on hacks, and well, that doesn't always work, so I was able to beat him. Then game 7 we go against Jose again, and this is why I take notes, because I just went back, looked at the notes, I knew most of his sets pretty well, and I was able to beat him this time 3-0 in my favor. And again, he didn't bring his Mega Venusaur. I don't know why. I guess Latios really scares him away, and I did bring Latios just in case he decides to bring his Venusaur the second time around, but either way I was able to beat him pretty hard. Now, day 2 was my worst day, a day that I'm not proud of. I just shouldn't have battled, basically. My game 2 I lost, and right after I lost that, I probably should have just quit. Sorry if you hear rustling of paper. I'm trying to flip over to the match. Now, it was against someone by the name of Adam, and I don't know how I didn't realize this at first, but he had a Scarf Kingdra that just spammed Muddy Water. And the problem was, I couldn't get rid of his Mega Kang or Talonflame because I couldn't risk getting hit by a Muddy Water from that Kingdra onto my Terrakion, and so that was a huge problem, and I lost Clefable really early on, unfortunately, so I wasn't able to get rid of that Kingdra, and the reason why I was able to lose Clefable so early was because it doesn't have Protect, and it just got beat up by the Kangaskhan just using Double Edge and stuff. So that was not a pretty match. I lost 1-0 because eventually I took out the Kingdra, but his Kang was healthy enough to just finish off the match. So wasn't happy with that, but Scarf Kingdra is definitely something that I saw a lot of people in Pokemon Showdown talking about lately because a lot of seniors are using it, and so definitely watch out for that. And by the way, if you didn't know, I am in the senior division. Probably should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video. Now, game 3 was a win, and this was a very interesting team that I barely won against, even though, as you can see, Mega Blastoise, Metagross, Superior, Blaziken, and Charizard and Salamence. He did not bring Charizard and Salamence, but pretty much all of these except for Superior can Mega Evolve. So I didn't know what his Mega was going to be, but I had a hunch on Blastoise just because it was on the top left, and that's where people normally put their Megas. And so basically, Heatran won me the game because he had Metagross, Superior, and Blaziken, and Heatran could hit them all for super effective damage. The problem was that Mega Blastoise, and obviously my Venusaur can beat them pretty well, but my Venusaur can't really beat Blaziken and Metagross, so I worked around it, and eventually it was just my Heatran one-on-one against a Mega Blastoise with like 10 HP left, and I was at full health, and he used Water Pulse, and I was able to live it with about like 20 HP, and then I KO'd him with my Earth Power. So very intense match that I barely won, even though I feel like I should have destroyed him just looking at his team, but hey, he was a good player, I guess. And then game 5 and 6 were both losses. So first, game 5, it was pretty standard. He had an Aegislash, and I did not bring my Heatran, and it just pounded on my team. I had no way of defeating it really. So yeah, it was just not good because I didn't bring Latios or Heatran, and Latios and Heatran are the only ones who can hit it for super effective damage, and Rotom Wash, the only one who can even hit it for neutral, just went down way too fast, so that was definitely disappointing. But anyways, the last battle was against Patrick again from day 1, I believe. He was day 1, right? Yeah, he was day 1. So Patrick, this time I did not bring my Clefable for some reason, which was a huge fatal mistake, and I have no clue why I did that. And so basically his Gliscor was able to just party around my team because I didn't really have a way to deal with it, and his Goodra was able to clean up alongside his Gliscor, and I lost 1-0. But as you can see, all these losses were by 1. Except for the Aegislash. No, even the Aegislash loss was a 1-0 loss. Just Aegislash, the last one left. And it was a sub Aegislash, which made it worse. So all of these losses were by 1, and if I was focusing, maybe I could have picked up the wins and my record would be 3-27, which would be insane. But either ways, we're gonna go move on to day 3, which is obviously the day I went 5-0. This was a nice day. I was in a very good mood and I was just playing so well. I really hope that I can just play like this for every time I play from now on. So I was going against 1500 to 1600 players. I wasn't battling any more 1400 ranked players because obviously my rank's already at about 1600 at this point. And Greninja was everywhere in this lowish mid area, and I have no clue why, but I just ran into a million Greninjas, and I just felt like saying that. And even on the first 2 days, just Greninja was everywhere, especially on this day. I think 3 out of the 5 teams had Greninja. Now, the one match that was notable was Game 5 versus Elegi, and this person was 1640 rating, so pretty high. I was about 1640 as well, so I knew this was an important match for me. Now, this is probably the best game I had in the entire tournament. I probably will go ahead and make some fancy PowerPoint and like just show turn by turn what happened the entire match because it was insane. So he had a Trick Room team of Scrafty, Cresselia, Mega Camerupt, and Amoonguss, and then he had Bisharp and Rotom Wash, who he did not bring. Now, turn 1, I realized I had no way of stopping the Trick Room, and I was okay with him getting up the Trick Room because I knew that I could his Pokemon were really good under Trick Room, but they weren't too offensive that I was scared of Trick Room going up like the first Mega Abomasnow team was. So turn 1, I just T-Wave Crest, hoping that, okay, if it gets up its Trick Room, it gets up its Trick Room. If it gets fully Para, then I'll have another turn of no Trick Room, but it'll be it'll get full Paras throughout the match, because I don't feel like attacking the Cresselia, but I don't want it just randomly getting free attacks, so occasionally it'll get fully parried. And it got parried a lot, especially because it was pretty much from turn 1 till almost the last turn it was alive, and the paralysis, came through. Now, the Trick Room was inevitable. I'm pretty sure he even got it up twice, which was kind of my bad. I shouldn't have let him get it up twice, but either way, I realized Heatran was my win condition right against Amoonguss and Mega Camerupt. Heatran can hit them both for super effective damage, as well as Rotom Wash, but the problem was Rotom Wash had to be careful of redirects from the Amoonguss. So eventually we were just switching out and going for all sorts of random moves and Rage Powders and all sorts of randomness, and it was kind of crazy. We traded Scrafty for Terrakion very early on, so I was left with Venusaur, Heatran, and Rotom Wash against his Cresselia, Camerupt, and Amoonguss. Eventually, though, I was able to beat him because Trick Room wore off. I got a sub up with Heatran. I was able to KO his Cresselia before it could get a third Trick Room up, and then after that, Heatran just Earth-powered Camerupt, and then I finished off the match, and I believe that was a 1-0 win. Excuse me, I probably should have looked at this earlier. It was a 1-0 win. Heatran finished off once he got into subs, so definitely a good match. That was basically the highlight of day 3 and the entire tournament. I wish I had a capture card to honestly show you guys that match. It was insane. But now we come to day 4, which was actually today, this morning I finished, and obviously I went 10-1, which was really nice. Getting those 10 wins in a row was wonderful. Everyone at this point was already above 1600, tons of 1700 ranked players, and I was quite happy with how it went. Although it's strange, because all the 1700 ranked players I didn't have interesting matches with, I just kind of destroyed them. But anyways, our first match was against Sapphire, who was the lowest rating at the time, and I made if I lost to this person, that would have sucked, because 1500 and I was maybe this was game 3, so I was mid 1600s, and losing would have been very fatal to my rating. But luckily, we got a huge comeback. It was my Mega Venusaur versus a Kangaskhan, Garchomp, and Lando T. Now, I got lucky, and I had a Leech Seed set up on Kangaskhan, and the Lando T had to go for Superpower on my Terrakion because it did not want to hit its own Kangaskhan, and obviously has Garchomp in the back, so it doesn't want to hit that as well. So he got locked into Superpower, which obviously did nothing to Venusaur, so I didn't have to worry about that thing, and it was choiced as well. So eventually it even started struggling once Kangaskhan went down, and he didn't switch it out for Garchomp, which I don't quite understand why he didn't do that, but now that looking back, I'm pretty sure he had a valid reason, because if he switched out into Garchomp, then he was going to lose from something else, but I don't even remember off the top of my head. It was quite this morning and I can't remember. But basically all I had to do was get rid of Talonflame, which was actually very tough because he protected it very well, noticing that Venusaur was a huge threat to his team. And I also T-waved his Kangaskhan, so that's why I won. That's why I was able to get that cleanup with Venusaur, because I think he had one full para somewhere in there that came in clutch. And also I think I got a double protect once just to get Leech Seed recovery enough to survive the next turn. And in the end, though, Venusaur really showed that if you don't have a way to deal with it, it can get insane comebacks with just Leech Seed and Giga Drain and Protect. So definitely probably the second best match of the tournament just because of that 1-3 comeback. Really awesome. Feel bad that my opponent wasn't able to win that, but hey, I played hard and was able to pull it out. Now game 4 was against someone named, I have no clue what that is, Pokemon Some Money or something, and they were decently ranked as well. This is about the same ranking I had at the time, game 4, and I got an amazing prediction a few turns in that basically sealed up the game into my favor. I had Latios and Clefable in against his Bisharp, and he had something else in, but it wasn't too much of a threat to my Latios. Now, I knew that he could just Sucker Punch Latios and it goes down, but a few turns ago I was using I was using Follow Me, and so obviously his Sucker Punch wasn't hitting me. Now, I knew that an HP Ground from my Latios would put him down to about 1 HP, and then he would use Sucker Punch and it would not hit Clefable because Follow Me, right, cancels it out, and then whatever was next to him might have been able to hit Clefable depending on the roll of the damage. If it got a low roll, I would have still lived. If it got a high roll, I would have died. So I decided to go for the risky play of Helping Hand HP grounding his Bisharp, and it pulled off because he decided not to go for the Sucker Punch. Instead, he might have gone for a knockoff because that would go after his friend Pokemon took out Clefable, and then he could knock off Latios. But because of that prediction, I was able to beat him 3-0, which was quite good. Now, next battle was against Magnum Creeper, the first match that I ever played, and now the second to last match. I was very happy to have a replay with this guy because he was my first loss, and I was able to beat him 2-0. And Heatran, Latios, and Clefable synergized so well against his team because Heatran completely walled his Abomasnow, and then Latios was able to deal with things like Amoonguss, for example, but also Heatran could. So Latios just dealt with other things, and Clefable was there just to provide lots of support. And of course I had Mega Venusaur, but he didn't do too much that match either. But Heatran, Latios, Clefable synergized well, and they really showed how well this team can work together and just pull through. Now, my last match, I guess I was just getting excited, like, oh, I'm going to get 25-5. I go against someone named Burger King, and I lose 0-4. It was dumb. I didn't bring my Terrakion, and he had a Charizard Y that just swept me, which was very dumb of me. I shouldn't have allowed that because my Latios used Draco Meteor, and he lived with barely anything, and then was able to just KO me. I probably could have gone for the Helping Hand Draco Meteor, and that would have killed his Charizard, but I sadly did not go for that. So that ends up with the matches that went out through the days. So here are some most used strategies and Pokemon that I noticed, and this is definitely very helpful information because this is just things to expect when you're playing Pokemon. So when you're building a team, just think about these types of things. Now, Mega Kangaskhan was of course everywhere. 50% of teams had Mega Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan is a threat. Always have a fighting type that can OHKO it. or always have a fake out user and then someone who can just hit it really hard, or just have some way to deal with Mega Kangaskhan. I have Terrakion, and just most teams of mine always have a fighting type, because you need a way to deal with Mega Kangaskhan. If you don't, they're going to destroy your dreams. I'm sorry. The next two most common Megas were definitely Mega Charizard Y, maybe 35%, and then Mega Salamence. Mega Salamence was very common as well. Although I dealt with Mega Salamence very easily. Mega Charizard Y was a bit of trouble if I didn't bring Terrakion. But that's actually why I like Terrakion, because Terrakion beats all three of these common Megas, and I call Terrakion the Mega Crusher because he just counters Megas flat out. That's basically his job. Venusaurs were on lots of teams, I noticed, especially because Mega Charizard Y Sun teams, but a lot of the time they were just a Mega Bluff, or they were just never even brought, so people would just have them like, hey look, this could potentially be my Mega, and then they just never even use it, and so I don't know why. I don't think I ever actually went against a Mega Venusaur, so, or even a regular Venusaur, but I did see it on a lot of teams, which is really weird. So just Venusaurs a lot of the time are bluffs, just keep that in mind. You'll figure it out after just seeing a lot of teams. Now, Greninja was everywhere the first 2 days. I have no clue why, but low-ranked players just love Greninja. And Greninja was a bit troublesome because I didn't have easy ways to defeat it other than maybe like Clefable being able to follow me and then something hopefully just OHKOing it. But still, Clefable didn't want to take too many hits from Greninja, and if he was a good player, then obviously they would be able to beat me because I can't just focus on taking out Greninja, although taking out Greninja was definitely important. Although once I got to higher ladder, about day 3 and 4, right when I was above the 1600s and getting to 1700s and stuff, Greninja just vanished, honestly. It's not in the high ladders, so you don't really have to have a hard counter to Greninja, but just make sure you don't get swept by Greninjas, because I almost did in the low ladder, but once I got to the high ladder, they weren't there anymore. No one really uses it. Now, obviously, these are just some common Pokemon: Aegislash, the Genies, which is Lando T and Thundurus, Suicune, Rotom Wash, Hydreigon, Amoonguss, and Talonflame. These are definitely the most common. I've seen them a lot. Obviously, it's different for Trick Room teams, but I only ran into 2 Trick Room teams, so I'm not going to say they're common. Although Trick Room was there, but I was going to expect it a lot more, but because it's seniors, maybe that's why I wasn't there. Although I believe in Masters it wasn't even around that much either, but I don't know, I think not too many people were using Trick Room for this challenge, for the international challenge. But yeah, definitely Genies and Aegislash were something that I was able to deal with pretty well because I'm used to just going against them. Suicune and Rotom Wash didn't stand a chance against my Mega Gengar or my Rotom Wash. Hydreigon and Talonflame, my Terrakion countered very well, and Amoonguss, Latios countered extremely well as well, and Heatran, for example, could also deal with it, just like Heatran could deal with Aegislash. So I had very hard counters to all of these, and they're very predictable as well, and that's why I was able to climb so high. Now, there was no weather teams, no rain teams, no sand teams, and even though there was lots of sun from Charizard Y, it was only just to support its own heat waves. There were no sun teams like with Venusaur Chlorophyll, or I don't even know what other Pokemon go on to sun teams, but there just weren't any weather teams in general. Smeargle was around, but it was very easy to deal with. It was very predictable, and I was not bothered by Smeargle. I never lost to a Smeargle, so that's at least nice, because Smeargle's too easy to beat. It's very predictable, and it was also, again, just like the whole Greninja, it was only in the lower ladders. So Greninja, Smeargle are annoying. Make sure you don't get destroyed by them, but once you get to high ladder, you don't have to worry about them anymore. So overall performance of my team, the first 2 days I didn't really do this, but later I caught on that this worked very well. I would go with an offensive lead of either Heatran, Latios, or Terrakion, one of the 3, my most offensive, and then they would be next to my Clefable. Now, if I saw that Clefable really just wasn't needed, maybe that Clefable would be swapped out for Rotom Wash, Mega Venusaur most likely, or just another one of my offensive Pokemon, although I normally didn't do that because I didn't like having 2 offensive Pokemon just sitting out there, because that was very dangerous. Unless I knew that I could just OHKO both of his Pokemon on the field, then that was nice. But that didn't happen too much. Now, Venusaur and Rotom Wash in the back were a very common duo just because they clean up so well. Rotom Wash obviously only being weak to grass, and grass is not a common type coverage that's just around, so it was very easy to fit Rotom Wash every time I wanted to bring it. And Venusaur is obviously very hard to take down, so they were very good at cleaning up, especially when the opponent only has 2 Pokemon left and you have 2 Pokemon left. Just being able to Leech Seed, T-Wave, and then just slowly dindle down using Protect and then like T-Bolt, Giga Drain, it worked a lot. And yeah, sometimes I just get rid of their threats such as Talonflame or any grass type, and then they would do well. So overall, definitely like the way my team did. Day 3 and 4, I did this best, and Clefable came through a ton. I started bringing Clefable a lot more in the last 2 days, and its support was very good. It really makes opponents think. Sometimes they won't really know at first like what your Clefable's gonna do, and then once you follow me, if you'll like sucker punches away or just anything that you don't want hitting the Pokemon next to you and you already have a nice lead, then they start to catch on to it, but then you just switch over to like Helping Hand or even go on the offensive with Moonblast and Ice Beam to take out Dragon types or Lando T, and Clefable just very good Pokemon, fits on this team well, even though it's not like my Salamence team where I needed Clefable just so I could set up. No, Clefable is more to support already bulky Pokemon. So that was very nice. And throughout the tournament, the hacks were fairly even. Some matches it was more in my favor, some matches it wasn't, but my team really easily avoids this. Hacks weren't a problem other than that one Clef Key team, but yeah, hacks were just fairly okay. Yeah, normal. And so my predictions by the time I got to the day 3 and 4 became so spot on that I was just having so much fun just destroying some opponents 4-0, 3-0, even if they were highly rated, just because I felt like I started to get a feel for what people were doing in the senior division. And it just from playing, I got really good, I feel like, just this weekend. And overall, I really think I'm ready for Seattle Regionals, and I just can't wait for it. So I know this might have been a bit long of a video and a long review, but I hope you definitely got some good information out of it. Go check out my live VGC or live team builders or just team reviews in general, because I do have some good content and I will continue to be posting daily, so please do subscribe. Leave a like and a comment down below because I will read all your comments, and I definitely love suggestions. Anything you want to see in the future on the channel, I will definitely consider it. But other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.